The past 2 weeks have certainly been a challenge. To say that it has been emotional, heartbreaking, and overwhelming would certainly be an understatement. But we've seen the worst of humanity, but we've also seen that followed by incredible acts of kindness and support from throughout Broward County and across the world, and we're extremely grateful for that. And for everyone that's certainly sharing in the grief that we're going through. Today was a major milestone for us. We took a major step in the recovery process as students returned to school today at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School. They continue to be inspiring students. They continue to show us their resilience. We saw a really great turnout at school today. We had an attendance of 3,123 students. That's about 170 short of what we would normally have. So that's an attendance rate today of about 95%. So I thought that was outstanding. On hand today were also approximately 150 counselors that were ready to listen, to provide support, and offer any help that was needed. There were also a lot of therapy dogs. There were over 40 of those on site today, and other animals in support as requested by staff around the campus. We also had additional staff. I was very pleased today to see almost all of our high school principals in Broward County were here, in addition to other administrative staff here to provide support and encouragement to their colleagues and the staff at the school. So as you know, today we had a modified schedule. School ran from 7:40 to 11:40. That's the same schedule for Thursday and Friday. It's a modified schedule as we look at this as a transition week. The words I would use to describe this week are flexibility, support, and love. That's what we're trying to provide to our staff, our students, to get through this period, to work our way back into some sense of normalcy. We know things will never, ever be the same, but we're going to try to make sure that we can figure out how to move forward. So today we gave our students a lot of opportunity to get reacquainted. It was felt like almost like a family reunion where the Marjory Stoneman Douglas family finally got back together after a couple weeks. I'm sure they shared stories. They hugged each other. They have an opportunity to begin to go and see their classes. We had to rebuild the entire master schedule to be able to fit all the students into the remaining facilities. So many were going to new locations throughout the day. So that was another part of what we certainly provided to do. So in terms of flexibility, I've been asked, how many students were looking to potentially do transfers out of the school. And again, out of the 3,200, almost 3,300 students, we only had 15 students so far that asked for information, expressing an interest in looking at other school options in the county. As far as employees, there were only about 4 employees out of about 215 that asked for information regarding additional employment options. As you saw today, there was a substantial and enhanced security and law enforcement presence at the school. We're going to see a lot of that presence continue as we go throughout the school year. And it was actually, just great, again, to see the entire Broward County family come together. I want to continue to thank our entire community for their support. I especially want to thank the media today for honoring and respecting the wishes of our students, our parents in our community, not having any helicopters flying over the building, giving folks appropriate distance. That is very much appreciated. And finally, I would say that, we continue to be inspired and amazed at our students and how well they've responded to this. how they provided leadership on a national level to bring attention to some very salient issues that have emerged out of this tragedy. So hopefully out of this tragedy we will see some real change finally in this country so that we will never see this again. I would like to have our school board chair, Ms. Nora Rupert, share a few words as well.
Thank you. Good afternoon. As we all continue the long and emotional recovery process, our district remains committed to ensuring that the victims, the families, and employees of Marjory Stoneman Douglas community have the support they need. There's a variety of options available for those needing counseling and support services during this difficult time. Our district's website, www.browardschools.com, and you can go to /crisis support. It brings you to incredible amounts of resources for parents to talk to their children about tragedy, for children's books, for counseling. It goes into a lot of options. In addition, we also appreciate the incredible outpouring of support from our community and across the country. It has been astounding and humbling to have other school boards from around the state and around the country contact us and say that they're thinking of us. Is there anything that they can do? We don't feel alone in the process. We know the immediate and long-term needs for the victims and their families are immense. Donations can be made to the Broward Education Foundation GoFundMe account of go-fund-me.com/Stoneman-Douglas-victims-fund. There's also a mobile giving text-to-donate campaign, which is much easier. You can send a text to 20222 with a message of Parkland in all caps, and they will forward a $10 donation to support the families and the victims of this tragedy. Offers of support services that are continue to come in for Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School can be made at browardschools.com/we support. And I'd like to thank our superintendent and his staff who've been spot on through this whole thing, and they've been a pillar of strength, as well as my colleagues beside me and those that were unable to make it today, without which we would not have gotten through together, without which we wouldn't have gotten through unless we leaned on each other. And that's what we're doing as a community, as well as a board and a school district at the time. So thank you all for showing up today and for once again being there and getting the information out to our community. Thank you so much.
Yes.
What will things be like tomorrow? Is it going to be pretty much the same as we saw today with the show of security, the sense of security, the number of grief counselors? Give us an idea of how things will be Thursday and Friday.
So we will probably see, a little bit of a change, but we're going to assess things day by day relative to the number of counselors. Are we going to have 150 counselors on site tomorrow? Staff's going to make a determination today based on demand that we saw today, support that was requested, and certainly we're going to look at any feedback that we get from the administration and teachers. But again, we're going to do whatever it takes every single day to help this school community through this difficult process. Yes, 95% of the students came back. There's 3,293 students in the school. About 95% of them attended school today. No, I wasn't concerned at all. On Sunday when we had the open house, about 80% of the students showed up. The conversations I've had with students and families throughout the community is that they were eager to get back to school, to be with their peers, their colleagues, to meet with their teachers, and just get going on with the healing process. And I was able to observe the students today and watch them in the courtyard, and they seem to be enjoying their time together. I saw smiles, high fives, hugs. So it was really heartwarming to see our young people expressing themselves, and it seemed to enjoy being with each other. So we love to see that. Yes. How many officers are here today? I really couldn't count the number. There were officers that came from all over Broward County to show their support today, But I will tell you on an ongoing basis, we're going to have a significant enhanced level of law enforcement presence at the school. It won't look like what you saw today, which is probably 200-300 officers from around the county, but we're certainly going to enhance security here. And what I would say is that every school in Broward County, every school in the state deserves enhanced security presence. So I continue to implore our state legislature, which is considering legislation now to provide funding for additional school resource officers and security personnel in each school. I believe the proposal on the table calls for approximately 1,000 new school resource officers. The governor's proposal had something very similar, but they should absolutely not end this session without providing resources for us to be able to do that.
Was Cruz
To the left. Keep that going to see that heavy police presence, through even August.
What's that question?
What's the plan to keep that going to see the heavy police presence where safety concerns addressed through August?
So again, we're going to have a substantial amount of law enforcement there at the school throughout the remainder of the school year and into the foreseeable future as necessary. We're not going to have hundreds of police officers here. This is not, some armed camp, and we have to just strike a balance in terms of the security that we have and the presence that's there. We want to certainly send a message of safety and security and confidence to our students, our faculty, and our community, but it can't be overwhelming. So you'll see a greater balance as we go through. I think what you saw today was really just a lot of the law enforcement presence, and they have a right to be here today because when 2 weeks ago, when I arrived here, the presence and response from law enforcement across Broward County was extraordinary, and it was a sight to behold, and that just really kind of shows you how strong this community is.
You mentioned the therapy dogs. Are students, can they expect to have this?
Yes, they can expect to have those therapy dogs as long as necessary.
Superintendent, I wanted to ask about the announcement that Sheriff Israel made about training and arming SROs in schools. Is that up to him, or is that something that the school board decides? Will we see more armed SROs on campuses in Broward County?
Well, I think the question you're asking is, are we going to see school resource officers with rifles? Because school resource officers are armed individuals, and they are trained by the different law enforcement agencies. In Broward County, we have agreements with municipalities, and in some municipalities we have agreements with the Broward Sheriff's Office. They're responsible for the law enforcement personnel that are trained and staffed at those sites. So the question about the rifles, we're actually going through that now. We've actually met with them. We believe that we have a solution that would enable the sheriff and the school resource officers to be able to be comfortable that they have the capacity to protect our school grounds the way they believe they should be, and at the same time respecting some of the concerns that we've heard raised in the community about the presence of rifles. So we have a solution that we're working through to be able to accommodate that. And I'll let the Sheriff's Office speak to that.
Is that an agreement that is between the Sheriff's Office and the school board? Like, ultimately, is it the school board?
Ultimately, it's the school board's decision in terms of, how our grounds are actually policed and maintained, but the school board is not responsible for officers that are there in terms of their training and whatever else they need to ensure that they stay up to date with the latest strategies that they need to deploy on our school facilities.
Was Cruz ever a member of the Promise program?
So let me just answer this one question, because there's this narrative that's going on out there that's extremely false and I think disrespectful to a program that we have in Broward County called Promise. That program, it's an acronym that stands for Preventing Recidivism Through Opportunities for Intervention, Mentoring, Support, and Education. It's an intervention program for students that are involved in what we call minor non-life-threatening infractions, right? So this particular individual, Cruz, was he never participated in the Promise program, wasn't eligible for it. There's no connection between Cruz and the district's Promise program. As far as discipline in the district, I think there's been some concern that somehow the district is lax on discipline for infractions. I can tell you on an annual basis, we expel over 300 kids a year. We have thousands of students that receive suspensions. We're very serious about our discipline code of conduct, which you can find online. We apply it and work with our schools to make sure it's done consistently. Cruz did not participate in any Promise program. There's no connection between Cruz and anything in that realm.
If I can just follow up, in 2014, there was an effort.
Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, because there's a lot of conflicting reports. What was it that led him to be forced to leave, and was he expelled from the high school?
Well, so it was, as the data I understand it, November of 2016 that the ESE team, so understand he was a special needs student relative to emotional and behavior challenges that he had, so he had an IEP. The way we work with students that have IEPs is required by law. We continue to monitor them. We provide services. They're evaluated and reevaluated. When there are incidents and issues that come up, that team gets together, and it's a team of professionals who can evaluate that student. In November of 2016, they made a recommendation for him to be reassigned back to one of the behavior centers. It was at that time that Cruz, who had turned 18, has a right to do that. He refused services, and the parent also agreed with that desire. So he revoked his rights to receive ESE services from the district in November. It would be counseling, all the other types of supports that we were providing to him. One last question.
We need to spread it around a little bit, so we're going to take a question from over there. We understand that you all have a lot of questions, but we do want to be fair to everybody, and we will only have time for 2 more questions. Is there a question on that corner? Okay. Is there a question over here? Then I'm going to come back. All right, then go ahead, young lady.
My understanding was that in 2014, there was an effort by the sheriff's office.
2014? Okay.
2014, to train SROs, deputies, and also arm them with rifles for schools. And this was because they had done some research after Newtown. And so my question is that something that went to the school board? Was that considered in 2014? Or why
Let me.
2014, why were these SROs not armed the day of this shooting?
This is the first I'm hearing that. I've never heard of that or seen a request from the sheriff's office for that in the past. So I have no knowledge of that coming before me or the school board. These conversations about the school resource officers carrying rifles has been a conversation that has just come up subsequent to this horrible tragedy that we've had. It may have occurred in the sheriff's office in the past. I can't comment on that, but it became a conversation between the sheriff's office and the district recently.
Superintendent, have there been any more conversations about what to do with the freshman building? Is there any movement on changes to knocking it down or building?
Yeah. So the movement that is being made, all of this is at a critical decision point in the legislature. We are hopeful that the legislature will pass a bill that will include funding for building a replacement building at a different site on the campus, demolishing the existing building, and providing funding for a memorial that we will work with the victims' families to determine what is appropriate to erect on that site. We will know much more about that within the next couple of weeks as the legislature concludes and wraps up. But that's on the table. It is being seriously considered. I know it's got the support of the governor and some of the key decision makers in the House, so we have a high degree of confidence that they'll do the right thing and respect this community and the families and the tragedy we've been through, so we can rebuild and move on. Thank you very much today for coming, and please continue to pray for our families and our community as we move forward. And again, thank everyone for their continued support as we go through this difficult period. And God bless you all.